Someone... Someone died?
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. If only he had a portal onto the Emperor's ship, this would be a short war. Renato felt wrong all over. He could feel an almost palpable sickness in the air. And if the land could have tumors, they would look like these monstrous crystals. The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, but few birds, if you didn't count the ravens. Renato smelled sick animals and dying ones, but no healthy ones. I'm getting a bad feeling about this, Renato thought. Maybe Lapino was right. Maybe they should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here. As he held the radiant icosahedron, Renato felt queasy. Like dozens of tiny worms were nibbling his insides. It wasn't healthy to be so close to the eye of a god. How could he use it? He could take it to the observatory. The scientists there could tell him how to harness its ancient power. But honestly, Renato ached to get away from it. He brought the core back with him to the Farfarer. But honestly, Renato ached to be rid of it. Tell you what, said Lapino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost. The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Renato. But what if Lapino lost the core to the Empire? That could be a good thing, couldn't it? Was Renato ready to take that risk? Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself. Lapino was a touchy rabbit. Renato knew that. You're brave, I know, Renato said. But this is what I was hired to do. Oh, well, at least let me run ahead and warn them you're coming. Renato wondered if Lapino was up to no good. What if the rabbit warned the Empire instead? Oh, but Lapino wouldn't betray him like that. Not again. Before it'd been a fluke, right? They finished the trip to the Nexus in silence. He would offer Lapino a chance to betray him, or not to. His old friend deserved another chance to prove true. All right, Renato said. Go.
Fucking boomer, man. Quit looking at the goddamn wall. Boomers down.
Alright, 7 seconds before the next movement comes.
Got that night dark.
Yeah, I did. She is.
I can't get this boomer, man.
Let's go on now. Bubble, throw your bubble up on. Never mind,
Okay.
come on.
I got.
That'll work.
As Renato watched Lapino vanish on the horizon, he could feel nausea building in him. He felt ill. Could his knee really be aching this much? But how could he have handed the core off to Lapino? That was a recipe for disaster.
You got knights come down on the left side. One knight down. Copy. Let's go, man. Let's go. Cross over.
Renato felt worse. All his joints were aching now. He'd been through beatings that felt better than this. So the core had a kind of poison that could harm you without even touching you. That's new. Well, it had power. The rebellion needed something with power. And how was this any worse than a sword wound? Well, a death by sword was sudden and fair. This was just squalid. A piecemeal death, like old age.
Everyone ready? 3, 2, 1.
Where Renato went next, we cannot follow. Yet. Cannon trap. Who kept these things loaded anyway? Somebody's fucking up. I cross over, Dark. The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists everywhere. Renato found the mad rabbit cowering under a desk. The ravens, they must have known we were coming, said Lapino.
That's fine. I'll take her.
How did you... See, I was doing a card trick with my lucky deck, and I kind of bobbled the cards, so I went under the desk to gather them up, and boom! I guess we'll have to take the car straight to the secret base. Renato wasn't sure he believed that, but Lapino was talking so fast. It always seemed to make sense. The secret rebel base. Yes. They had engineers there. But wait. Calaveras. The sage in the mountains. Maybe he would know what to do with the naked core. Ah, yes. The secret base. Not even Lapino knew where it was. They had engineers there. Those toads would surely know what to do with the core's power. And then he'd be free of it. But he couldn't take Lapino. The core would work its evil on him, too. You stay here. Give me the coordinates. I'll meet you there. Lapino seemed awfully anxious to have the coordinates of the secret rebel base. Someone needs to bury these scientists. But why do I get all the fun jobs? And with that, Bernardo returned to the Farfarer and took off.
Right there.
If you can't see them to shoot them, they can't see you to shoot you. Don't worry about it. Stay in one spot. Stay together. Back away from the fucking door. That way, as soon as that boomer pops out, you can headshot. You stay in that spot. Y'all keep grouped up on my fucking aura to that, and y'all will not lose that fucking aura. Alright? Y'all gotta stay together.
There's no reason for you not to be.
The ruins were quiet, but Ronaldo could hear a buzzing in his ears. Was it bugs? Or was it the core slowly feeding him poison? The council would know what to do. If the core had this much power, it could surely change the terms of the great battle that was coming. And maybe they would take this burden from him. Maybe. Don't go away. The Empire's chokehold was closing around the rebellion. The base was still secret for now. But for how long? They would have to make a move soon. The core. They had to find a way to use the core. How had it come to this? Bernardo had signed on as an adventurer. Sure, the Emperor had gone mad. Sure, Bernardo had heard horrors from the ghosts of dead kittens and puppies sacrificed in his blasphemous rituals. But when he jumped in, he'd only been a little bored and slightly broke. And here he was, carrying a bucket of death across a broken landscape. Why not drop it and run? Because he hated to quit in the middle. That was his fatal flaw. He had to know how it all turned out. Say, how are you guys fixed for life insurance? Long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. It was on fire. So far, so good. Bye-bye, life, he thought. Hello, emptiness.
I can't, everything is like...
He dropped the core at the entrance to the council chambers.
Get that thing out of here!
Croaked the speaker.
It's making us sick!
That's the core of the Sky Ripper, said Renato.
That's not useless at all,
said an engineer toad.
It's poisonous. Look at the fox. He's ill. Probably dying.
Yeah, not useless at all, said Renato. So what do? Rub it on His Majesty? The engineer chuckled. Renato didn't like it when engineers chuckled.
Oh, I got it. Listen, I can make a bomb that spreads bits of the core all over a circle about 100 paces wide. Little chunks of poison and death. All you have to do is just get it near the Emperor. It'll kill him and his bodyguard and chop off the head of the fleet. Yeah, and if we're lucky, might poison some of the ravens around there as well.
What about me?
Right, what about you? Well, I'll build in a timer. You can set it and run.
No, that's a horrible idea, said Renato.
Oh, we have to do something, yes,
said the speaker.
This is something.
Renato couldn't argue with that. And so, reluctantly, Renato loaded the rigged core onto the Farfarer and set sail towards the Emperor's ship. The rebels took the fight to the Imperial fleet, but Renato was too sick to enjoy the view. He must have passed out as a firm hand grabbed him and shoved him forward. This was it.
1 down, 2 down, and yellow bars down.
Yeah, bro.
Alright, cross over.
You still got a boomer, man. The ads.
It's fine. Just give me a bubble up. I should be alright. Boomer down.
The fleet seemed very big, and its ravens very tough. Or maybe he was just slower and weaker than before. He hated the idea of poisoning the enemy. It wasn't fair. Face to face with a raven, let the best swordsman survive. But they wouldn't even know what was killing them. Feather by feather, scale by scale. He didn't mind dying a hero. That sometimes went with being a hero. But he didn't feel at all like a hero. Not today.
Down. You got your yellow bar, Dark. You got thralls on your ass.
The portal was heavily guarded. It must go someplace they really didn't want him to go.
Yeah, I got 3 of the bastards, too. Got another yellow bar
Down.
up. Fire.
Alright, you got your boomer.
Yellow bar's down.
He was exhausted. He was making stupid mistakes. His fur was coming off in bunches. Up ahead, he could see the Emperor's ship, long and sleek, a floating palace. The bomb would only poison a circle 100 paces wide. He would get as close as he could, set it, and run. Oh, this was a lousy way to win a rebellion, he thought. He didn't want a medal for this. He just wanted to be forgotten.
my leg is not supposed to bend that way, but yeah.
Renato twisted the timer on the bomb as far as it would go and staggered off. His knees hurt. Oh, everything hurt. He staggered away as far as he could until he had to lie down. He could see the entire Imperial fleet from here, and the rebel ships engaged with it. There was a blinding flash. And a second later, a monstrous thump. Burning rocks arced across the sky over both fleets. A wreath of fire shot outwards, rolling across the fleets. A pillar of smoke boiled up from where the Emperor's ship had been. It reached into the clouds. That's a wee bit more than 100 paces, thought Renato. It took Renato most of that evening to die. Some of the toughest ravens lasted all week. Some of the rebels in the furthest ships survived as much as a month. That winter, with neither Empire nor rebels to rule them, the islands slid into banditry, and so began the second age of darkness.
Oh, again?
But he already had all the secrets he needed. He was sure of that. He must have not used them the right way. What was the best, worst mistake he could make? Probably trusting that traitor Lapino. The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again, faster than before, and he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game-changer. Pieces of the Skyripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. And he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage. Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause, and maybe Renato could use that somehow. Ah, Lapino. Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a Pegasus that he...
That's what I'm saying, dude. That's how fucking easy it is.
Two was like 360 something.
Yeah.
He said he had most of the time. And didn't have an exotic sword, so you know I killed the boss.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen the winged horse. He'd only sold it. But, wait. Where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled to Ravens? The Ravens had taken the town. Renato had seen villages emptied like this. All the people taken away to be sacrificed in the Emperor's secret rituals.
Renato hoped the people were just hiding.
The second phase, we go to the middle-ish.
Back there. Alright, man.
Start this shit, man.
Balance this shit to start. Yeah, this is the middle I'm gonna fucking grab it.
I don't think I said I can. I said it doesn't matter.
There was still no sign of Lapino. Not a hair. Not a pellet. Was he hiding in the cemetery further down the road? That didn't seem like him. Lapino would betray him. But now Renato knew that. What would Lapino do if he knew that Lapino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct some crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lapino's betrayal against him and it would blow up in his face. Maybe he was overthinking this. That would be a first.
Check, please.
Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lapino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger.
I am. We capture Zenobia. We find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. To make the Sky Ripper, the transcendent...
Alright, so somebody besides Marty get on left. He's lagging too fucking hard, man. He's teleporting over there.
Marty, go right side, keep go left side. You want to grab the circle,
that'll work, that'll work.
Left side, and you hold the brain, go left side. Marty.
It's beautiful here, thought Renato. It was nice to be back with his old war buddy. All right. Lapino was a traitor. But still, he was good company.
Alright, so cut the chatter.
Alright, step on the circle, let's start it.
I'm starting it. Marty, you're fucking dude. Alright, well, let's try this shit again. Everybody get on the fucking circle.
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time.
Started that time.
This must be that sufficiently advanced technology they always talked about. Renato felt wrong all over. He could feel an almost palpable sickness in the air. And if the land could have tumors, they would look like these monstrous crystals. The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, a few birds, if you didn't count the ravens. Bernardo smelled sick animals and dying ones, but no healthy ones. And getting a bad feeling about this, Bernardo thought. Maybe Lupino was right. Maybe they should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here. As he held the radiant icosahedron, Bernardo felt queasy. Like dozens of tiny worms were nibbling his insides. It wasn't healthy to be so close to the eye of a god. How could he use it? He could take it to the observatory. The scientist there could...
Tell you what, said Lupino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost.
The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Bernardo. But what if Lupino lost the core to the Empire? That could be a good thing, couldn't it? Was Bernardo ready to take that risk? Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself.
He's immune. He's over half, or under half, rather. Hide.
Trust me, Bernardo, you won't regret this. I'll treat the core like it was my own baby daughter. As the Farfarer dived towards the Nexus, Lupino was jumping up and down with excitement. Stop rabbiting around, Bernardo said. Lupino just stared at him. The moment the ship landed, Lupino leapt off the ship.
You saw that? He just lagged, like...
Yeah, this knight's lagging over here. Marty, go up top and help them over on the left side. Marty, go up those stairs and help them cross-shoot over on the left side. I've got this.
As Lupino vanished into the wilds of the Nexus, Bernardo vaguely remembered Lupino had a baby daughter, didn't he? And he told her mother he was going out to get some Easter eggs, and he'd never come back. But Bernardo was relieved not to carry the core anymore. He was already feeling better. And who knows, maybe this time Lupino would get it right. And if Bernardo could take the outpost, he'd have access to all the Empire's communications in this sector. Right? I pick you! Bernardo caught his breath. His joints still hurt, but he couldn't feel the poison in his system anymore. He'd let the armature slip out of his hands to save his friend Lupino. Of course he had to let Lupino take the core. The rebellion needed every man doing his duty. And the rabbit would be no good taking on an Imperial outpost, right? Renato had rescued Lapino because he was an old friend. And then he'd sent him off with the poisonous core. And he'd probably bungled the mission, too. What had he been thinking? That he'd have a romp in the Imperial outpost? Renato took the outpost with a song in his heart. Soon, he was stuffing his sack with key messages from and to the fleet. Then the far-speaker toad chortled a new message. The observatory had been sacked by ravens. Lapino and all the scientists had been taken to the mountains. Why? Why had he trusted Lapino again? And now the Empire had the core. Renato hailed the rebel base to warn them. But their far-speaker didn't crouch back. Was the base under attack too? Lapino would have to wait. The core would have to wait. Renato had a very bad feeling that something was going terribly wrong at the rebel base. Its location was secret, but secrets can be discovered.
Twin, don't move, man.
I'm going over to Alex, dude. Where are you going? I don't know. I thought you knew where you were going.
I don't think you know.
There's a big door over there. Y'all go through that. It closed.
No. Stay where you're at, dude.
You guys doing quota or King's Fall?
There were Imperials everywhere in the ruins, and dead civilians. The ravens were killing everything in sight. Renato was relieved to see no rebels among the dead. Maybe the secret base was still secret, but there were huge burn marks on buildings. What monstrous weapon was the Empire using here? The core had great power. Had they harnessed it somehow, even though they didn't have the armature?
Alright, you see these fucking moths? See the moths flying around? See them?
That could have gone better, thought Renato as he died.
Alright, so watch out for the moths so you don't fall down. Okay, hold right here.
What part we gotta do next?
Don't follow me. Just go around and see exactly.
That's his son.